What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Big Miller Basketball Show. This is the Boys State Finals Day One Game Day breakdown. So, what we'll be doing for the next few days as the finals progress is we'll be, or I'll be, I know for sure. I'm obviously by myself here, but I'll be tuning in to give you guys a game day breakdown of what to expect from the games of the day on the boys' side. First up today, we'll click over here on the bracket and get it shared up over on our screen. We have Earl playing once again. Let me see if this is the right. Well, yeah, we'll go here. So we got Earl playing once again, right? Same as last year. Earl last year actually beat Mark Tree, which is a close bitter rival. Very good game down the stretch. And so we'll take a look back real quick at how they got there, right? We'll go to the bottom half of the bracket where they are currently. So in that first round, obviously coming out with the 1 seed, Earl took a big win. And I think obviously if you guys have tuned in for the past few episodes, you've heard quite a bit about this. I talk about Earl quite a bit in general, just as it's a Northeast Arkansas team. They're perennial contenders every single season to make their way to Hot Springs, especially counting on young Don down there, Teron Hurst, who's been a really major key for the past couple of seasons for the Bulldogs and helping them get there. So obviously, like I say, first round matchup versus Scranton was a breeze. Second round matchup versus Bradford was 20-point win, and then the 30-point win here again in the semifinals to lead them here against Clarendon. So as we can see, you can say battle tested if you like, right? But not much of a battle if I'm coming in and laying you down, right? Um, all three of these games, except for the Scranton game, was never really close. These games were pretty much decent games in the first half for sure. Earl just stuck to their P's and Q's with their strengths of their core and rolled it out to big wins. I don't think anybody kind of super thought that this bottom half of this bracket was super competitive. Dermott's good young team, a couple good pieces, good coach as well. Blevin's really well coached as well with a senior star in Xavier Bazell, but I don't think anybody really super expected them to. Not obviously seeing each other in the first round, somebody's gonna have to lose, and then whoever didn't, I didn't know if they thought that they would just breeze to the end over here. Clarendon has made light work, except for out of this game, they've made it seem pretty smooth to where they haven't had so much of a problem, which I think that will be the problem for them in this final matchup game, is that there's going to be the same amount of athleticism that they have on their side, the same amount of hustle and effort and intensity, the same amount of guys and the way that they stick together is going to play a huge factor in what Clarendon is going to see. Those things have also benefited them very well this season when they've met other teams. Kirby's pretty decent. Didn't have the athleticism down the stretch to stick with them. Didn't have enough pieces. The depth was an issue. County Line did very good. County Line, in fact, almost had this game won. Um, a mistake here, a few missed free throws there, and then it goes the other way for Clarendon. So, not to say anything bad about them. I think County Line was a very formidable opponent. If you guys remember from a few years back, they also made a run at Hot Springs. And so, then we're looking at this CRA and Clarendon game. I think CRA just had a lot to handle coming out of these first three rounds. Brinkley was much better than people expected him to be. Obviously, after they lost their coach to Barton, which is Christian Williams. Excuse me, their best player, which is Christian Williams, and their coach, Chris Williams, to Barton. But this game right here was really the one. A lot of people had Nevada picked to win it all, and they never saw CRA coming. A lot of people didn't even know where CRA was, you know what I'm saying, unless you're obviously in the 1A. But if you're in the bigger conferences, bigger schools, you're probably looking around and not knowing much of what to expect. And those guys showed up, and like I say, great core group. When you have these small ball schools, it normally does come down to two things, which are depth and talent level and skill level, right? So if you're the deeper, seemingly more skilled team, especially on that day or that night, then that's normally what it leads to is wins like these where the number 1 seed goes down to the 3 seed. A lot of people had Nevada pick to win it all. CRA made that very hard. Moving on to this final round where Clarendon, I think CRA was a little gassed. Clarendon gave it all they had. Not like they had an easy matchup here either, right? but I think just more physically fit, endured more down the stretch, and was able to pull away to a comfortable win here. So if that says anything, it says a lot about Clarendon and the way that they're like almost a mystery, right, for everybody. And so now we're gonna do a little deep dive, get into some Clarendon hoops. I know a lot of people, like I say, know nobody here. Even myself admitted it the other day that I hadn't seen Clarendon at all this season. Had to go back and watch a little bit of film. But I did know the name Kimani Fluker, just a kid that I've ran into in gyms in the past. And he's a talented stud over there, and it's looking like he is leading the way for them. So here we have two very formidable 2A opponents in England and Barton taking those L's to start off the year. So just getting some good competition in under your belt, right? Then you see a Stuttgart, which they actually beat. So great competition, getting those type of teams and those type of games in early in the season to prepare yourself, see what you got, and see if you match up down the line. A couple games against Brinkley with a split right here. Let you know a little bit that, like I say, Brinkley was a bit of surprise team this year. They pulled it together and fought hard. A couple of canceled games and postponed games. We all know that probably happened because of the snow and the weather was not the greatest. A couple months back after the Christmas break. A couple more games you see here with Brinkley down the stretch. They end up winning both of those. They actually end up beating Kirby as well. End up beating County Line and CRA, which obviously we know those were the playoff games there. So, like I said, you see the test in the early beginning of the season, right? Taking those little notches, those little L's to very good 2A teams, grabbing you a couple, a win against Stuttgart, and then, kind of just figuring out who you are in this middle part of the season, right? Building the confidence. Those wins right there, they do something for teams, right? Especially down the stretch. Play another, very good team in Barton, take a 10-point win, and you clearly, were a lot better from your beginning of the season game where it was almost a 30-point plus loss. So you see yourself growing. That confidence does a lot for you. Like I said, you put together win streaks like this one here and like this one here. Those good stretches in the middle of the season. And when you click around this time, obviously, it's very scary for whoever your last opponent is on the schedule. So we'll see what the Clarendon Lions have for the Earl Bulldogs. Take a quick look at this roster. No knock to high school on SI, but the rosters by SB Live are not always 100% accurate. I'm not even sure. They might just be team submitted, and some coaches don't do the best job with getting everything accurately updated. Nonetheless, I appreciate any bit of information or help that I can get from it. And so here's the name I was speaking of, Kimani Fluker. Looks like he's about 6 foot 150. He'll be a formidable guard in this game. He'll be a name to know. He'll be a standout player for sure. Especially if the Clarendon Lions want to go win this game. So that is the name to watch for the Clarendon Lions. I'm pretty sure, obviously, a few of these other guys have made strides during this season. But the one that I can bank on is Fluker to be the name to know for this game. And then we'll go back and we'll take a look at Earl. That probably wasn't sharing when I was talking about Clarendon on the last one. My bad, guys. My bad. I apologize. I didn't click the right tab. So we'll go to Earl's schedule too. Obviously, we see 28-3 overall, 12-1 in the. Okay, cool. So that should be sharing now. All right, my bad, guys. Just figured out that was not sharing the whole entire time. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and watching, and that is my mistake. Actually going to go back now since I just kind of realized that. We'll check out Clarendon real quick and just go over a few of the things that I was talking about really, really briefly. Sorry to double back, guys. I just want to be able to get this footage out there for the people who were wondering what I was talking about. I was going through this schedule here and looking at these few losses early in the season, right? And then a good win over a Stuttgart team here, right? And that kind of led to a few more wins, a stretch of good games here during the middle of the season that helped build that confidence, knocking off some of those conference opponents, some of those guys you may have to see later on down the line when it does come to playoff time, right? Then you see this here, this double back game against Barton. They only lost this one by 10, whereas in the beginning of the season, this was a 30-point plus loss. So, like I say, the little stretch of wins here, facing a team that did you pretty bad in the beginning of the season. I mean, obviously you're taking an L again, but a lot of coaches don't like moral victories, but they are a very true thing, especially for young athletes. And so you have one of those there with the 10-point loss, and then another stretch of wins here. Especially like I say, this little 3-game stretch through the playoffs is the only way that you get to this last game of the season, versus your toughest opponent that I think maybe outside of Barton that you have played or will play. CRA is very close to it, obviously, but the athleticism for the Earl Bulldogs is going to be very, very matched for Clarendon. And so that's just what I was speaking on there for everybody who kind of missed out on that little tidbit. Glad you guys are tuning in here with me. My mistake, and I'm just getting back to that. Also, checked out the roster real quick and wanted to highlight Kimani Fluker here. It looks like he's about 6 foot 150. That will be a name to know for this game. 100% factual name to know for this game. If at all, in fact, Clarendon wants to be effective in this game, Fluker will have to get things going. And then so getting right back to where I was, boom, back to Earl. So we take a look at their schedule: a 28-3 on the season, 12-1 in the conference. And so this was a tournament here that they played. Took that lost to Bologna, which is a really solid 5A team. I mean, you look at a 1A team playing a 5A team, you're like, how did this game kind of even get scheduled? And so, like I say, you need these tough games to get your head right. Whether it's a win or a loss, it doesn't matter. It just does something for you. Whether you win and gives you crazy confidence, or you lose and it makes you lock in a lot more. Like, man, some of these kids are a lot better than I expected. So come playoff time, we really got to pull it together. But obviously, if you know anything about Earl, they play hard, and it normally leads to good things for them, right? So the only losses on the year came to out-of-state team, 5A squad, semifinals team, CRA, right? Very, very, very solid, you know what I'm saying, win streak here. Putting it all together, man. Like I say, they average, if you can just look at these numbers here, it's anywhere between about 60 to 70 points for a 1A school. That is incredible. Like I say, if you guys know anything about me, law of averages always means something to me, especially when it comes to basketball and the offensive side of your game. If your offense is clicking and you guys are able to get near your average, if your defense just does the slightest bit of a 1% better job than the other team normally does in letting them to get their average, then you have a great chance of winning. Very simple laws of average right there. But this matchup versus Clarendon will be crucial. Earl, last year, I got some stats from going to the game last year, some things that I keep around. And I just figured I'd show this off for people to see that, I really do study the game. I really do my homework. This is from last year's tournament. I still have it, was able to go access it and pull it up right now today for this episode. So just kind of trying to pat myself on the back there with that one. Letting people know that, I really do take care, or I really do take pride in caring about my work. We got some returners for the Bulldogs. Clifton Wren looks like he'll be back. He was a junior that played last year. Teron Hurst, obviously, as well. Derek Lately as well. Those are all 3 guys are seniors this year. You also have Aiden Davis, who was a bright spot for Earl last year in the championship game as a freshman, right? Stepped in, played really big. I think Aiden hit 3 threes, maybe 4 in the second half, and helped Earl pull away from Martree. The score of that game at halftime last year was 26-22. I don't have the final score right here in front of me exactly. I don't want to be wrong at all, but I want to say Martree ended up winning by the same exact margin, was 4 points. I could probably look that up real quick. Let me see. 2025 1A boys. Yep. Yeah, 48-44. So 4-point margin, just like it was at the half. Without Aiden Davis's, shots through the second half of the game, maybe they don't win this game. I was definitely wrong, though. He only ended up with 6 points And so there were 2 field goals and a 3 and a free throw, which were all very crucial down the stretch there. He did not score in the first half of the game. All of those points, I do believe, for sure came in the fourth quarter, which that was big to help them get over the top from Mark Tree. Just looking, I'll show you guys what I'm looking at here. Looking at the old info from last season. Is this up on the screen? There we go. And that just kind of, like I say, this the insights from the game last year, and what you have here and what you see is what I'm talking about. You got Clifton Wren, Teron Hurst, and Derek Lately that will be back. Dorsey was a sophomore who played pretty well in this game. He'll be back. And Robinson was the lone senior. Robinson was the lone senior that will not be returning. So, like I say, with that core and that experience of those guys who played 20-plus minutes for the most part right here, especially out of these top 3, the core, the seniors that you're going to have coming back this year who took, obviously, the ample amount of shots. But you got 35 shots right there. So, I mean, that's where the load of your bulk of your offense is going to come from if you're Earl. And that's what Clarendon needs to be really zooming in on and paying attention to in this game. Teron likes to get going early and late. So if he's not going early, you can guarantee he'll be going sometime in the game. But slowing him down early would be the ideal situation for them to keep the game close in the early goings of this championship matchup. But yeah, it should be some great ball for the 1A boys down in Hot Springs today. It's now 12:14 as we go live here. So the girls are underway getting started with things. I know that game will be very exciting for the Lady Bulldogs. If you guys want to check out the Big Miller sports show, or the Big Miller basketball show, rather, on our YouTube, Chris Boyd and Eric Taylor did a wonderful job covering that. And then there's a small breakdown for the game of that already up if you guys want to go tune into that maybe at halftime of this one, kind of get some insights and some things to keep on the top of your mind for the rest of that game as you watch. And then, like I said, we get right into this game here after that, which is Earl and Clarendon Lions. The Earl Bulldogs versus Clarendon Lions. If I had to make a pick on my seat, we got comments here. We got Lucid Tat, who you got winning today. Lucid Tat says Earl or Clarendon. I'm taking Earl. Like I said, Clarendon is just a bit of a mystery team, and maybe this is need not have done my studies the correct way, and I'll get this pick wrong. But I'm riding with Earl. Coming off a win last year, bringing back that core group of senior guys. I think they'll be able to get that job done down in Hot Springs today. And then so we'll move on to the other boys game that is on the top of the tip for today. And if I go ahead and get this pulled up, it would help you guys out. Get a quick drink too. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Tat, I appreciate you dropping a comment, giving me some feedback or something to go off of, rather. See if we can get this 2A bracket loaded up. Share this tab. Cool. Boys 2A bracket up. Same thing for anybody else that comments, though. We love the comments. We love the feedback. We love everything that we can get from you guys. We eat it up. Absolutely. Much, much appreciated from everything that you guys give us input on and what you're thinking about and what you want to know. So taking a look at this 2A final. Obviously, clearly, I'm not saying anything that anybody doesn't know. I think this has been the talk of the state when it comes to the state playoffs. Is Barton and the 5 missing players. I have not been able to track down the exact names of those young men, which I would not get on here and put those names out or talk about those names in any other light other than the fact of it probably sucks that if some of them are seniors, how they're not going to get to play their last game, despite of whatever led to get here, it still sucks, right? Or obviously just the various ways that the kids that are not playing could have affected the game if they were playing, what that means for MVE and how they could possibly still squeeze out a win. But we'll get there. So we'll just backtrack just a little bit to see how these guys got to where they got. Hampton was a favorite by a lot. A lot of people had Hampton picked as a favorite, but then a lot of people, even at England at the 3 seed, we kind of know England has not had the best year whatsoever involving anything from the top to the bottom since their basketball season has started. Sucks for those young men as well, no matter, like I say, what the case may be. I was once a young man. If you guys are out there that are men, you were obviously once young men. So I don't take that and hold that permanently against them. That's not who I think they'll be in 5 to 10 years, and I certainly hope not. But like I said, get off all of the crap news and get to the good news, or the good parts, right? Sticking around that same, average, right? The law of average number that I always talk about. 59 points here, 60 points there, 51 here, right? 51 to 52 ended up coming down to the final seconds of the game. Really could have went either way. Literally, if England had, made a better play, taking care of the ball on their last possession, we might be having a different story about England versus Barton being here. But here we have it. A lot of people suspected Hampton to make it all the way, obviously coming in riding high on that 1 seed. Coach B has done a great job down there with those boys and turning that program into something that, has been very, very interesting and intriguing to watch. They play with super, like I say, 2A was the most athletic I've ever seen it this year. You had highlight films on multiple teams, multiple kids on multiple teams at that, right? And so this was the most athletic. There was a lot of talent in 2A this year. Very, very slept on talents in 2A this year. Hampton had a team loaded full of those, which is why people obviously saw them being able to make it here or even possibly here. As we know now, they did not, right? And so Tuckerman gave them a bit of a run. Tuckerman fought way harder than I thought. I thought this game would be not a huge blowout, but a 20-point win for sure. Did not see Tuckerman coming in battling the way they did. Was very proud of their execution, but just ultimately wasn't enough to stick with the athleticism and the defense of Hampton. And then I honestly thought this game would be a bit closer, maybe more like this one, right? Maybe a 2-point, 3-point victory where either team kind of just skates out. But England was just the better opponent. They wanted it more. They had more in the beginning, in the middle, and in the end, honestly. There were stretches where it felt like Hampton could really come through and win this game. But ultimately, it really just, you kind of saw England pulling it out, taking it home. And that's what happened down the end of the stretch of this game. We all know about this game. Won't talk about it much at all. 1-point victory, great win. Very tough execution. Very sad situation. But that's what led to Barton get into the championship. Barton had to knock off Woodlawn, who had one of the more stud of a players in this 2A tournament, and Jude Roberts, who was a University of Arkansas Monticello signee. If I'm not mistaken, out of all of the kids in 2A, he's the only one who signed already. I know a ton of 2A kids actually have offers, but I think he's the only one that's currently signed, especially out of the playoff teams that I'm looking at in my knowledge of scouting. So way to go being a stud, going out there knocking off last year's top dog, EPC. But then dropped the ball, obviously, to a very tough Barton team. Depth was the huge problem in this one, obviously, and then you were very gassed from playing this game. And so coming into this one, this was tough. Barton had a smooth going game against Mountainburg to get their victory. Mountainburg, they came out with a fight. Just wasn't enough. Nowhere near enough size, skill, athleticism, talent, right? Just was a very, very tough one-sided matchup right there. Then, like I say, kind of the same thing here. Wasn't enough skill, talent, depth for Woodlawn to overcome Barton. Great game, as we just talked about here, up until the final few seconds. And then, like I say, that's kind of just what led to this side of the bracket. We got there with that. Quick story. Oh, excuse me, did not mean to click that. Quick story I'll highlight about this game too here in a second when we get done. And I'll kind of just breeze through this side of the bracket. Hector was a formidable opponent all season. A lot of people had them picked just because of their record. When I watched them, I was not top heavy favorite for them to get to the finals, which is, like I say, I kind of said this to say something, to talk about MVE, right? But they did not strike me as the most athletic top dog of a team. I knew they were good in the West. I knew they were good in their region, right? I knew they were good in their area. And I knew a bunch of those teams around there, they were having trouble with them. But just looking at the athleticism and the matchups that could possibly become, like if they had to see Hector versus Barton, Hector versus EPC, Hector versus England, Hector versus Hampton, right? Some of the other favorites, I was not very big on Hector winning that. which kind of held true for me. White County came out, gave a fight. Hector knocked them off. When I saw the score of this game and I saw that Hector let White County put up 62 points, I knew this game would be very impactful because Sloan Hendricks can score the ball pretty well. And they're a scrappy defensive team. They're not like just crazy lock up, stop everybody, but they will make it tough on you. They'll make it hard on you. So coming into this game, I thought maybe Hector pulls this one out. And this is one of those games I call a flip-flop game. Had Hector won and beat Sloan 52-49, I wouldn't have been surprised either way. But I definitely say that I could call and saw that happen. The home team here just wasn't enough for Sloan, just didn't have enough. They've been pretty strong all season, like I say, in their area, in their region, but that's what really exposes some teams come playoff times is only playing with inside of your region, inside of your area. You don't get that real punch in the mouth early on to kind of see what you need to be ready for. And I think that might have been the downfall for the Indians. And then to the bottom half of the bracket where the district I don't want to get my district wrong. Never mind. Forget I said it. To the bottom of the bracket, to the bottom half of the bracket where MVE is, took care of Westside Johnson County very easily. I was kind of surprised that Westside Johnson County even made it into the playoffs. Don't know a ton about them, but I did not see anything very promising from what I did see them. So congrats to them, pat on the back for making that team and making it to the playoffs, though. ICC was tough for Junction City. They just kind of stuck together well. Obviously, if you know ICC, they have Sebastian Robbins, who's 7 foot, and that did not help Junction City at all, having that 7 foot kind of paint protector inside. But then he was not enough to stop MVE, who's got Wyatt Sanders, who does not care about your size, height, athleticism. They call him Hair Jordan. If you've ever seen MVE play, it's the kid with the super long blonde hair, wears the headband. Man, the kid's tough, super athletic, crafty around the rim, ambidextrous, fights hard, clears out space for box outs and rebounds. And he's only like 6'3". And so he did a good job making work in the paint against ICC and helped them get to a victory. And then Noah Watson. Noah Watson's been a star for MVE, only a sophomore, right? So it's a name that you guys really should know. Sitting here seeing is how they're playing in state championship game. And I don't have the exact stats in front of me, but I know more often than not, he's one of the leading scorers on the team. That is his job. That is his role. He's a great facilitator and scorer for MVE. And so coming into this game, a lot of people who don't know MVE, they're like, man, Barton, I've seen Barton all year, man. Highlight show, highlight fest, right? And that's if you don't watch 2A basketball, you probably wouldn't know. But if you did, you would know that this is a rematch of the district championship that was just a week or two ago. And MVE beat a healthy Barton team minus senior guard Jordan Humphrey, right? So if that says anything, it lets you know that MVE comes to play. They don't care who shows up on the other side of them, of the court from them. They're there to hoop. They know their game plan. They're going to stick to it. Their fans travel well, right? They stick together as a core, right? And they're about 7 to 8 deep. They got a few guys that come off the bench that, can give, good contributions and good minutes. So don't just go into this game, especially like I say, with the tragic news and the sad news of Barton having 5 guys missing, and us, I guess, as all fans, not exactly knowing who those guys are. You do not know exactly what to expect from this matchup, man. You do not know exactly what to expect from this matchup. Good indications will be that if MVE beat a seemingly healthy Barton team, and now that Barton's missing 5 players who could be critical pieces, starters, top guys, right? It's leaning MVE's way, right? But then we would have a great, wonderful type of, Cinderella story, right? If you want, if in fact Barton goes into this game missing 5 guys, gets the revenge game versus MVE, who knocked them off in district to win the state title. That would be a great ending to a story. I can't lie. That would be a great ending to a story. But if MVE goes in here and beats them, I would not be surprised, like I know some of you would be if you come back and tune in after the game and watch this video. You're like, man, I should have watched this guy before the game. Maybe I would have been a little bit heads up on it. I don't have any stats for either of these teams from last year. Obviously, it's seeing as how this was not the 2A matchup of the this was not the championship matchup of 2A last year, excuse me. But I did want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Big Baylor Basketball Show State Playoff Preview. This is the boys state finals day 1 game day breakdown. I'll be having a game 2 game day breakdown tomorrow. I mean, like I say, this literally just going over the games that are being played on the boys side of the bracket the same day of, talking about some key insights, some crucial things that might play a factor, might benefit, might be detrimental to a team, right? Some of the storylines and the top things you guys should be looking for inside of the game, or when you go to the game, or when you're streaming and watching the game, right? Just pay attention to a few of these things that you may have heard. Last but not least, get out, follow Big Miller Events on Instagram. Shout out to Nick, shout out to Nigel, shout out to Chris, shout out to Eric, shout out to everybody behind the scenes at the Big Miller Events team. We are growing, man. We're doing big things, obviously, as you guys can see if you're tuning in watching from show to show. Things are only going to get better as we progress into the summer and then into next season. This will be bigger, bigger, better every single time you see it. We guarantee to make that promise. We're all putting collective minds in a row, you know, collecting all of our eggs in the same basket. And that's all in order to have the cream of the crop premier channel for you guys, right? We want great media going out all across the state. We don't want to just cover one area of the state. We want to cover every single area, every single classification, every single school, every athlete, right? Every coach, right? We want to get everybody involved in this thing. This is the only way that we can be anything, right? Is with you guys. So once again, appreciate you all for tuning in. I'm going to get off here, actually go watch the rest of the girls' game, check out everything so I can be on point for what I need to know. Got one last question for you. Who you got? State playoffs finals. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Coach Vic signing off.